Hello, fellow homebrewers. JP here, and I want to introduce to you the brand new Brew-Built X1 Conical Series available at More Beer. More Beer sells the highest standard in homebrewing equipment, and the Brew-Built Conicals are just that. They're made from mirror-polished 304 stainless steel, and they come with loads of features that you and I have been looking for. They have a full 2-inch bottom dump valve, which will eliminate your clogging issues, while the sturdy base includes 4 reinforced legs, just like those big Pro tanks do. More Beer also carries the Brew-Built line of options and add-ons like casters, pressure kits, and even external glycol chillers. So you can find out more about the new Brew-Built X1 Conical Unitanks by going over to morebeer.com for detailed videos on the entire line of Brew-Built Conicals. You can trust Brew-Built with your next fermentation, and you can trust More Beer to find the right conical for you. Brew-Built at morebeer.com.
Great beer is about drinkability. Doesn't matter the style.
You guys are like walking beer Wikipedia. That's the first time that you've ever accepted me as a person.
Or you have a fermentation in your gut.
I'm jet propelled at all times.
How many guys do you think that you have the privilege to slap?
Somebody who's never tasted a commercial example, and this is how you know everything about this beer? Please, you don't.
I think that's bullshit.
I think it's bullshit too.
Wow. Are you guys going to arm wrestle?
No.
They're going to teabag fight instead. Yeah. You heard of Junkyard Wars?
Can I get another high five, Beavis?
Now, live from the Brewing Network studios in Northern California, this is the radio program for home brewers, craft brewers, beer lovers, and beer geeks. It's your only source for live beer radio that brings expert brewers together with, well, expert drinkers. This is the radio program with a head on it. This is The Session.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's The Session. We're back with another great brewery. We're talking with a bunch of the fellas from Red Clay Brewing from Opelika, Alabama. And welcome, guys. We have, if you're watching live, we have four boys representing the. Was that you, Teresa?
Oh yeah, that is. Sorry. Let me get that.
That's all right, man. That's all right. We're like I said, we're still trying to figure this out. We have Emmanuel, and we have John, and we have Carrie, and we have Steven. And thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate it.
It's great. Our pleasure.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I have, of course, a bunch of your beer sitting in my cool desktop refrigerator, which, as I mentioned before, is just a converted wine fridge. So, I happen to have a spare wine fridge because in California, you're issued them. I think it's small wine fridges and parking tickets, even though you don't drive. Like we get tons amount of parking tickets out here for literally no reason. So let's just jump right in, boys. I want to know a little bit about Red Clay Brewing. I want to know how you guys got connected. I want to know about your histories. I want to know everything. John and Carrie and Steven, you guys are all founders. You're all co-founders of the brewery. Yeah. Were you guys childhood friends? Did you guys meet on Craigslist? How did you guys connect up?
So Steven and I, we grew up together. I'd say probably from middle school till still now, ongoing. And I sort of hooked up with Carrie's sister, and so I married his sister. We're brother-in-laws.
Okay, still all right. I thought
we're still together.
Okay, all right. Because usually the I hooked up doesn't end with marriage. Usually I hooked up is like, and then we got in a fight, and we beat each other up for a bit, and then it's fine.
Yeah. Well, he's always said if ever anything happens, he wins me in the divorce. So no, I'm just kidding. So no, but yeah, so we've known each other for years, and just we homebrewed for a good while when I was living in Georgia at the time, and
okay,
Harry was finishing up college, and we just decided one day, after plenty of beers and long nights of brewing and sitting by a campfire, that we wanted to start a brewery. We had a lot of friends who were going in and helping us with this, covering the cost of the grains, coming over, bottling and kegging with us and all that stuff. And it's a typical, we got this cool idea and everybody wants some, so we figured why not make some money off of it one day, and so that's what we did.
Well, and here's always my fear, or at least it's always something that we bring up on the show, is what percentage do you think of your friends liked you for your beer, and what percentage were just your actual friends? And then
well, luckily we didn't invite anybody over that didn't like us prior. So
okay, all right.
Yeah, I'd go with about half and half.
Yeah, half and half. I mean, that's just sort of what makes sense, I would guess, right? Like, you have to understand. And then I always wonder about the amount of feedback of like, are you more impressed with this being homebrew versus, hey, this is a really good beer? Did you ever think about that going into it? Like, hey, wait a minute, maybe people are just stoked that we made this in our closet instead of it being like a really good pale ale.
Can't think about it now.
No, but like, but beforehand, because
we did our best to keep it going.
Yeah, true.
Right. Well, it's sort of funny. Like, we actually, a lot of our homebrew recipes, well, probably more specifically our stout, which was our original first homebrew batch.
Wow!
It ended up being one of our lineup beers that we keep in the tap room pretty regularly. So,
I'm glad
we try to keep a lot of that stuff that we did back then. But I'll have to say, the neat thing about this new project we're doing with Emmanuel is it brings back a lot of those fuzzy fun feelings that we used to have when creating the recipes as homebrewers, because we're doing something we haven't really done before, and it's sort of forcing us to go into not your normal come up with a recipe, run it through the system, make sure it works, okay, we're going to brew it and we're good to go.
Yeah,
it's a lot of research involved, and so that's what we're really enjoying about it.
What are you well, let's talk about that. What are you guys doing? Emmanuel, what are you how did you get teamed up with the boys at Red Clay?
Well, I first met John, what was it, 6-7 years ago, John?
Emmanuel, we're getting quite old. It's getting closer to 10-ish years ago.
Damn.
I am getting much older. Well, I get this call from this young man from Auburn University, the program there, that the hospitality program that a very good friend of mine oversees, Hans van der Weyden. He's an ex-Ritz-Carlton guy, as I am. And this young man says, I'd like to work I'm involved with the program here at Auburn. I'd like to work a harvest at your winery.
Wow.
And so I said, sure, why not? And he ended up working 2 harvests at our winery. And then we just stayed in touch. And as time went on, he told me, I'm now starting this brewery with some friends. Come on over. And I would come over and see how they were from the very beginning, and just see how they were growing into making some really very good beers. So every time I'd go out there to work and distribute, work with my distributor of wines out there, I would stop by and we'd have a drink, and I'd go by the brewery and taste the beers, and came away each time. I came, God, these guys are making really good beer. And John always said, gosh, if we could ever figure out a way to do something together, I'd love to do some kind of collaboration. And, we have a saying in the wine business, it takes a lot of beer to make good wine, because that's all we drink at harvest, right?
Right.
Long hours, hot. And so I'd always enjoyed beer. And so I started thinking, well, God, it would be interesting to see what a master sommelier and a master brewer could come up with as a kind of a different concept of a craft beer, because they're already making very good craft beer. So
right.
If we were going to do something, it had to be something unique and different.
That's right. And you're a master sommelier. You are You're the one you're talking about.
I am. Started drinking wine at a very young age.
Of course.
In fact, I was the 12th American to become a Master Sommelier back in '89.
Oh, wow.
Before all these guys were born, I think, anyway. So then I thought, how does a wine person come into this and think about this? And so then I started thinking, wine is very geographically based and also very historically based.
Yeah.
So then I started thinking, okay, well, this should have, each beer should have like the French say, a raison d'être, a reason for being, right?
Okay.
And so I started thinking of the different types of beer and what we should start out with. And so a Pilsner, an ale, and a stout. And started thinking about each one and what I liked, and from the many I had tasted, whether they be local, American, or European. And that's, I came up with these ideas and I threw them at these guys and they said, great.
They didn't kick you out. Yeah. Okay.
And that was really, for me, that was really a rewarding experience for them to try something really outside the box.
Yeah. Well, and it's sort of what John was saying, where, as brewers, and I'm not a professional brewer, but I used to homebrew, and but talking to a lot of brewers on the show, it is hard for you guys to sort of find, and Teresa, you can probably speak to this too. There's a sort of a small window, I think, to find your creative niche or to really expand the horizon and not be too weird about it. You know what I mean? Like now there's like Jello beer, like clumpy beer that looks like slime, or all this nonsense that's not, it's just for show. And if you guys do any of that, I apologize. It's really great. But it sounds like working with Emmanuel, you guys can, have the opportunity, like you were saying, John, the fuzzy feeling of creativity again.
Yeah, it definitely gives us that. And so we're very classic in our styles that we brew. We try our best, and Carrie can speak more to that in a second. But, it's sort of funny that when we were on last October, that's when Emmanuel approached us. He actually approached us the day before we went on your show.
Oh, nice.
Because he's from there and he was doing some business out there. So he's like, oh, you're out in San Francisco. I was like, yeah. He's like, well, let's meet. And so we met up, and he, presented us this project. Like he said, we talked about it a few times already, but this is when we were like, okay, we've got an idea. He's got the concept, and it took us almost, when we were scheduled to come on, I guess it was this past October, originally, that was actually right when we started releasing this stuff, just a few weeks prior to that. So
okay,
from concept to finish was basically from us coming onto your show to a year later.
Nice. I love it.
It takes me back to what you were saying. We've been open 5.5 years now. You sort of get in a rut, or get in a sort of a tunnel where, you can only do so much with beer that actually works out.
Yeah.
And I like to say a difference between the way Emmanuel's looked at this beer and the way that I've looked at beers. I've always looked at what can I throw in there. He looks at it as what should we throw in there.
What's the difference?
So as far as looking at it from a wine perspective, he sees the story, the region. He sees more of geography, whereas I'm looking for something new, something good, which is kind of hard to find now that just about everything's been done.
Yeah.
I mean, you can throw anything in beer. It doesn't mean it'll work.
Right. But it doesn't also mean that it won't sell, which is, it sort of sticks in my craw a little bit too, man.
We've always tried not to be, what's the word?
Like a hazy IPA.
What's the word? Not cliche, but, just.
That works, though. A cliche works, I think.
Showboating. We've never done anything just for show, for Instagram. likes or
Yeah.
whatever that y'all call those things, social media hits.
Yeah, you get some hits, man. That's right. Yeah, you do it for the fans.
We've never done anything just for the attention of doing it. Right?
Sure.
So
No shock value beers, no buffalo chicken beer. Yeah, I mean, it seems like Emmanuel would keep you so far away from that, but
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. So are we talking about like non-traditional ingredients, or, I mean, yeah, we have to get into some specifics because I'm so curious. Like what did you do?
Well, I'll let Emmanuel go with that. He came to us with this idea.
Emmanuel, go ahead. What did you? What sort of ingredients are we talking about?
Well, let's talk about the first beer, a Pilsner.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
That looks like a brown porter.
Whoa.
That is not a Pilsner.
Forbidden Blade.
Yeah. Do I have that? I think I might have
You could
it.
have Forbidden Blade there.
You have Forbidden Blade.
It's like the lighter gray color.
Sorry, I'm just reaching in my desktop refrigerator, folks. Don't worry about it. It's fine. There, I have Dark Cape. I have Forbidden Blade. There it is right there.
So I am a big fan of Japanese rice beers, and some that also add yuzu, a citrus fruit to it to give it a little punch. So this is really our interpretation of an Asian rice beer. But here we used Chinese forbidden black rice, which at one time in ancient China, only the emperors of China were allowed to eat, hence why it's called forbidden rice. And that's why the color is black. And then we added Meyer lemons, because Meyer lemons actually originate in China. It was a guy called Frank Meyer that brought them into the United States in the early 1900s.
He doesn't sound very Chinese, Frank Meyer.
No. So that's where we got Forbidden Blade, and then really I said, okay, Carrie, this is the idea, this is the thought. Now, can it be done? And if so, go ahead and do it. And really, it became his horse to jump on.
Well, Carrie, why don't you talk a little bit about how you wrangle all these ingredients into a beer that's palatable for the current beer drinking climate, which seems to be further and further extreme.
Well, it was easy at first when it was a test batch.
Okay, sure,
you go down to the Asian market, and I could buy 3 or 4 pounds of black rice and Meyer lemons from the produce store, farmer's market, whatever. When it came time to do the big batch, that was a little different. Having to find bulk black rice, which there's a lot of, we had to find the right one. That wasn't easy. That took our food supplier actually helped us with that.
Oh, geez. What size system do you have?
7-barrel brew house, 15-barrel fermenters.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot of rice, man.
It's like 30-40% of the brew.
Wow.
Batch. It adds up.
Wow.
Another thing is we can source it from 3 or 4 different suppliers that I found, but sourcing it affordable became the issue here.
I'm sure Steven thanks you for that.
Easy to find, but of course, if you can't afford them, they're no good.
Yeah.
And, but this also has Sriracha Ace hops, the variety developed by the Sapporo company, Saz. And the Fire Lemon, we actually found a company that only does citrus fruits. And so after about 2 weeks of searching and sending emails, I finally got something back from someone who could just send me bulk Meyer Lemon. That's been the worst part of these beers, is just sourcing all these ingredients in bulk.
Emmanuel's not even helping you, probably.
Well, he's helped with the coffee.
Yeah.
He just got the idea. He's not trying to source anything for you.
when we get to the Dark Cape, you'll get a little more idea of where he comes in.
Okay. All right. Well, I like the addition of Sriracha Ace because that is a very lemon sort of citrus focused, hop in general. So you definitely are playing up that. And then was there yuzu in here, Emmanuel, or were you just playing off of the yuzu?
We just, that was kind of the inspiration for the idea.
Yeah.
But no, wanted to keep it tight in terms of geography and history. So,
were you guys trying to make this a beer? And this is a stupid question, but you're used to that. Do you want to make a beer that drinks like a wine, sort of, or have like wine hints, or was it just like a food focused beer? Because to me, I can taste there's like a tannin aspect that comes through. And then the mouthfeel, maybe it's from the black rice. I don't know what it's from, but to me it does sort of drink more like a table wine in the fact that it has a light sort of citrusy fruity character. The mouthfeel sort of like medium, and then there's a tannin aspect to it that does sort of clean it up, and your palate sort of dry it out, and you can go back for more.
Sort of like with a lot of wines, you're getting a lot of the flavors out of the grapes, the yeast, the environment.
Yeah.
With these, sort of one of the things Emmanuel approached us with was, can we get the bittering from not just, instead of it being hops, what if we used, like for the pale ale you're going to try, what if we use the cocoa, the cocoa chocolate from it, as a bittering agent, sort of the same thing as, using some of these ingredients, it being regionally focused, like a lot of wines are, if you're drinking a wine, the Master Somm can tell you, where that wine was produced, all the way down to sometimes, the vineyard and what plot it was from.
Which I don't believe. I've seen it happen. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. It's like the closest to sleight of hand I could get and not accept. Like we've all, I don't know if everybody's seen it, but the documentary, The Somm, I'm sure you've seen it, Emmanuel, maybe. I don't know. It's like, and these kids,
he was the star. No,
are just like, here's this going rattling down the list. I'm like, there's I don't believe it. I refuse to believe that. I think I taste okay. I think I taste things okay. I probably taste like shit, but I don't know. It blows my mind. Stephen, what's your role in Red Clay? Where do you fit in with this?
So I'm basically the financial guy.
Okay, so you're the guy who's
bookkeeping.
Yeah, so you're making sure that Carey stays under a certain budget when he's trying to source.
Yeah. He has the hardest job out of any of us.
I imagine.
Yeah,
well, and that's
long time.
Yeah, well, that's sort of what I'm thinking. Listening to this, the ingredients rundown and how hard of a time you guys had buying, finding affordable ingredients is, especially now during the slowdown, the shutdown, whatever you want to call it. That's got to be more important than ever. To still keep producing quality beers, but meeting a budget with a lowered income.
But at the same time, it's kind of the perfect time to experiment, I think.
I mean,
we all slowed down just a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's like you can do stuff on the smaller batch size. You're not trying to crank out giant volumes of your core beers right now. So
okay.
I don't know. To me, it seems kind of perfect.
Okay.
And also to differentiate what you're doing too. Yeah. I really wish I could taste the beer.
I think you would really
mind
like
if I ask you guys a process question? Oh, I bet I would.
Yeah.
I mean, so how do you use like whole grain rice before? Did you mill it? Did you cook it? Like how did you get it to work?
The first batch, since we are using it as a fermentable, I cooked it like he was referring to tannins. I cooked the rice and overcooked the rice, trying to open the actual grain up so we can get the sugars out of it. But like he said, that didn't have a lot of tannins. And in the second batch, I cooked it overnight, but it never went above 170. So the rice was still fully cooked in the morning, but we didn't extract the tannins in that second batch. Yeah, we cooked it first, and then it goes into the mash with the grain. Instead of 60 or 90-minute mash, it is a bit longer, right around 2 hours 15 minutes before we pass an iodine test. But we do that because we want it dry. We could pull it at 60 or 90 minutes, but I don't want all those sugars left in the beer. I want them to be fermentable.
Yeah.
Right.
What about the lemons?
Oh, cool.
That's added in the fermenter.
In the fermenter?
We noticed during test batching that it's either the yeast or the carbonation would either eat through the lemon flavor or the lemon characters and pretty much just leave you with sort of that pithy taste.
Yeah.
Or the CO2 was scrubbing it out. I don't know which one it was. We started adding it after we brightened the beer.
Okay. All right. And what is this, 4%? Am I reading that right on the can, or are my eyes that bad? It's a 4%. This is great. It does not drink, and this is what I'm saying about the tannin, right? And I hopefully it came across as a positive, because that's how I meant it. It doesn't drink like a 4% beer. It's not light by any means. It's not heavy, but there's some body there. There's some mouthfeel to it.
It's not warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that we do, I mean, we're here in the Southeast. It's hot, humid, almost year round. Last year, it was 100 degrees up to like November, I think.
Gross, dude.
You know, what we try to do is, you know, a lot of our beers, like our stouts, our beers that tend to be a little heavier in most parts of the country, we dry them out, make them a little more palatable for our clientele. Because, I mean, we're ultimately trying to serve, you know, obviously the people who are drinking it, but we're also trying to serve the retail establishments. You know, if they have one beer that they're going to sell a guy, you know, it doesn't benefit them, it doesn't benefit us. But if we can, you know, give them something that they can sell, you know, that's going to have tons of flavor, and they can sell them, you know, 3 or 4 of them, you know, their bottom line looks good, so does ours.
That's better. How are people reacting to this line?
Really well.
Pretty positive so far.
Yeah?
Yeah, really well. Emmanuel brings a whole new set of craft beer drinkers to that, because his big following is in the wine industry. You know, so he's got, you know, reach all over the US and other parts of the world. And, you know, the people that are trying this, you know, a lot of them, you know, are the Heineken drinkers. You know, they're you know, but that's sort of when he approached us, he wanted the people who are drinking more of that premium line of the domestic style beers to, you know, switch over to craft. And so that's sort of another one of the challenges he gave us was, you know, I want to go after, you know, that drinker right there. And so we're like, okay, let's see what we can do.
Yeah. I mean, this is a quote unquote dark beer for light beer fans.
Like that. If you were drinking it from the can, you wouldn't notice.
No, you would never know. Absolutely never know. Yeah. So, okay. So
yeah, if you were blindfolded, JP, do you feel like you would know that's a dark beer?
I see. I don't know, because I like to think I'm really smart, and so I like to think I would pick it out. But there is no. I mean, you're getting the color from the rice. So what do you? There's none of the telltale signs of like, oh, maybe there's a little roastiness,
that like roasty malt flavor.
There's not. It's not there. So
yeah,
I don't think so. No, I think this would stump me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So Stephen and John, how do you guys hook up with Carrie to open up Red Clay? How do you guys hook up with Carrie to open Red Clay?
Well, John's my brother-in-law.
Yeah,
John's your brother-in-law. Okay, so then how do you find Stephen? One of you guys didn't find the other.
Together.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm for like the central part here.
I missed that. I missed the connection. I thought it was all. I thought you married. Yeah, okay, got it.
He was my best friend from middle school. I married Carrie's sister, and Emmanuel I met when I was in college. So
got it. Okay, now we got the whole thing. I apologize. I for half a second I was doing something on the computer, and I missed the thing there. Okay, so Carrie, you're home brewing. You have a passion for making beer. How do you step from a home brewer into opening a brewery? For God's sakes, it would freak me the hell out.
A lot of beer brewing, a lot of beer drinking.
Yeah. Did you go to other breweries and get practice? Because some people don't. Some people just do that.
Oh, well, I guess my background was most of my life I was a mechanic.
Okay.
I went to the Navy and then the Army as a mechanic also, and then came home to Auburn. Was studying for a major in biosystems engineering. Then while we were opening the brewery, I went up to Siebel for some classes up there. So,
okay, nice.
That's basically my background. sitting around homebrewing and drinking a lot of beer, we always played the idea.
Yeah.
What would we call it? What would we do? Or that'd be sweet, just sitting around the brewery drinking beer.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, that was pre-kids.
Yep. When you could sit around and just drink beer without a purpose. Like now there's a purpose to it. It's to either get to sleep or drown your problems. But
it's hard for me to recommend to someone who is thinking about their own brewery. It's hard for me to say, yes, go open your own brewery. You should do that. I mean, you're putting in 100 hours a week for at least, up until my kid was born.
Yeah.
So 4 years, I'd be brewing in the day and then standing in the tap room till 2 or 3 in the morning. Till you can afford to hire someone, then things help out. But
yeah,
the more people you hire, the less is left over for you. And so we kept going. But basically, we played with the idea. We did a feasibility study on a couple different areas, not too far away from us. But in Opelika, with the university next door, I think we're close to 100,000 people, total population between Auburn, Opelika, and the students. And we didn't have anything close to a brewery.
Nice.
The only one there was the Auburn Brew Pub, and they shut down probably around 2000.
Yeah, we were the only one within 2.5 hours in any direction. So, to add to that, we also spent about a year of what we like to call Alco tourism.
Okay. I love it. Let's go.
we visited every brewery we can here in the country, and Carrie's dad was out in Germany. And so he visited a bunch of breweries there, brought back a bunch for us to try. And after that, we're like, let's pull the trigger. Let's make it happen.
Okay. Excellent. How long did it take for you guys to get up and running?
Between the time we LLC till the time we opened the door, it was about 2 years. We did this
2 years.
2 years.
Nice. That seems pretty fast, honestly.
It didn't seem fast for us. But,
yeah, sure.
We spent about a good 3-4 months waiting on the T. We were ready. We were just waiting on the TTB towards the end there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did most of the construction ourselves. We were in there cutting concrete, just about sun up to sundown for the 6 months before we opened the brewery. We got a 100-year-old cotton warehouse in downtown Opelika. Was 4 walls, metal roof, brick and concrete. We built all the walls. We cut the concrete. Plumbers, electricians came in, did their thing, and we poured the concrete. Built the walls, finished those up. We built our tables, a bar with wood from an old textile mill that's actually caught on fire not too long ago.
Oh, no.
Some of that old growth pine. I wasn't about to build 80 chairs.
No, man.
That just wasn't happening. We bought our chairs.
Yeah.
But pretty much everything but the chairs. We built the cooler, my keg cleaner, keg washer and sanitizer.
Damn.
Our mill, it's our hopper, that's all homemade.
Wow.
Our mash tun is a 600-gallon dairy tank, so
perfect.
It works really well until it's time to empty it. We have to jump in and shovel it out.
Yeah.
And our brew kettle's an old mixing tank that got damaged by a forklift.
Okay.
So we bought it cheap and repaired it and put 4 10-kilowatt electric elements in there for a 40-kilowatt brew kettle.
Sounds good to me.
Other than that, I mean, the rest is history. A lot of hard work and sweat, and pretty much not seeing anyone you care about for the first 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Unless they come in to drink.
Yeah, we actually got the idea of the electric brew kettle. You guys had McLeod L down in Van Nuys on.
Yeah.
And we listened to that episode, and he said that, it turned out while we were doing our Alco tourism, we went out there, visited him. He's like, he told us what he loved about it, what he hated about it. And so we sort of made the version he wished he would have started with. And so that's sort of the whole idea of even having an electric brew kettle.
Wow.
Electricity is fairly cheap in Opelika compared to gas. So
God, that must be nice.
Well, and you must not hate it too much if you're 5.5 years in and you're still using this.
Oh, it's pretty nice to go from a mash temp to a boil in 45 minutes, and you haven't put a lot of exhaust or heat or anything like that to the brewery yet. But like you were saying, electricity in Alabama in general, Alabama and Georgia, anywhere in the TVA, is very reasonably inexpensive. And it's not only while we're here and we're all electric. There's a lot of plants that have moved in for that cheap power bill.
I would love
it's
that.
Nice. I think 1% efficiency. There's no heat going around the kettle. It's all put right into it. And McLeod said they undersized. They told me how long it took them to get from mash to a boil, and I pretty much doubled the amount of energy that they built into their system.
Wow.
Once we get to a boil, we actually have to turn 2 of the ovens off. And not because it'll boil over, but because we'll get an uplift, like a steam bubble will actually kind of lift up the liquid level. It'll pour over and then kind of pop. Of course, there's $400 on the floor. So
yeah,
Stephen cries every time. It's a waste of money. Let's drink another one of your beers, and I say let's. And then we're gonna take a quick break, and then I want to jump back into another one of Emmanuel's ideas, and then we'll just sort of toggle around until I pass out. What do you think? So I'm just going to go down the standard beer drinking order. I would imagine would be the Appalachiosaurus, Amber Lager.
Oh, yeah, Amber Lager.
Did I say that right? Because I am going blind.
Appalachiosaurus. Cousin to the T-Rex, found actually here in Alabama, just on the other side of the state in Demopolis.
Oh, it's a real thing.
It's a real thing. All right. They just found it a couple years ago.
I just assumed,
That's sweet. I thought it was made up.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, just a clever use of Appalachia.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Newly discovered dinosaur.
Oh, just loves NASCAR, I guess. I don't know.
It's a fairly new dinosaur. We try to keep names that keep us in Alabama, or at least close to it.
Yeah, well, for sure.
Kind of rolled out 8,000 brews
now.
That's
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell me a little bit about this Amber Lager, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Well, it actually started as our Oktoberfest, but then something weird in the world happened where if you call something an Oktoberfest, once October's gone, whatever you have left is going to go down the drain because it's not going to sell.
Okay.
So we just came out with our Amber Lager. The only difference between this and our Oktoberfest is a little bit of chocolate malt, just to darken it up a bit, bring the mouthfeel up. But it's basically our Marzen, and it's gone into a can as our Amber Lager.
I
nice
mean,
German water profile, sort of an alt beer water profile, German ale or German lager yeast, Saaz, and Tettnang hops, and Weyermann malts.
I mean, you could probably get away with calling this an alt beer. Definitely in Munich. I mean, it's like 3 beers in one. I really like it. That's delicious.
Yeah, one of the things like we were mentioning earlier is sort of we try to stick to traditional a lot with our beers, and we'll go and do some random one-off beers and try to find the milkshake IPAs, which I don't even think they're doing those anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
no, they're not. Just pretend that it doesn't.
Unfortunately, they are.
Yeah.
The little random beers that the popular. We'll come up with some random stuff too, but sort of one of the things we pride ourselves on is sticking to sort of the tradition of beer. And what with what he was saying, like our we go all the way down to the water profile. So we have a water or reverse osmosis and carbon filtration that we run through all of our water through, and which is not that uncommon, in the brewing industry. But what we decide to do is every beer has its own water profile. We don't have a standard water profile we go by. We look up the Waterworks websites from all the different places that these beers are originally produced, and that's where we, that's the water profile we give them.
Were you guys doing this when you were home brewing, or I feel like this is sort of maybe Carrie's mechanic mind kind of digging into the bones of the beer.
Actually, we decided to do this when we were in planning. I was getting the design for the brewery down.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to the local water board. When I was looking at the Opelika water profile, I looked at about 3 different years and noticed how different it was. So I called them up, and basically every municipalities required to do that once a year and yada, yada, yada. But Opelika has multiple reservoirs.
Mm-hmm.
And the only difference between the water profile now and the water profile in 5 minutes is whether or not someone turns the valve.
Okay.
So they can pull more water from here, pull more water from there. They're also surface reservoirs. So if it rains, the iron can up that high for a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
And we just decided the best thing to do instead of trying to come up with a sample, get there at I don't know 4 a.m. and take a bunch of samples and figure out the mineral content of our water and then calculate our investments. We should just get an RO unit, which makes all our water 100% just pure water.
Yeah.
And so that's where we went from there.
Well, it's working. I mean, that's a very good beer. Teresa, you'd be impressed with this one too, man. The lagering is great. How long did this lager for?
It's an 8-week, 3 to 4 weeks to ferment and then rest.
Yeah.
And then we lager it for 4 weeks.
Well, I applaud you. I know it's painful to have a tank just sitting there, but the beer, it's worth it, man. It's worth it. It's very smooth and easy drinking beer. And again, this is at 5%. It doesn't drink like a 5%. I would taste this and I would go, well, this is 6.5 easily. Because there's so much body and there's so much flavor to it. The chocolate malt comes through just a little bit, but those sort of dark, you get those Maillard reactions and you get those deeper flavors. What's your grain bill? What do you have in here?
Oh, that one's going to be mostly Vienna. That's mostly a Vienna lager on that.
Wow.
And thank you. I mean, it is hard to leave a tank full, but for that amount of time. But we started out as a almost completely traditional brewery. We do old world traditional beers. We didn't start out making I don't know, whatever you can come up with to throw in an IPA. We started out making traditional beers the old way, and that includes the water profile, these hops, which are sometimes hard to find. Like Saz last year dried up for the end of the season. Jeez. We're not big enough to contract something like Saz yet.
Saz dried up. You think that's the signal
if
for
you guys need Saz, I've got your Saz.
Okay, there you go. You think that's?
Well, it's check Saz.
I'm dead serious.
It's almost
your contact a little
better
bit
now, but
yeah.
2019, the end of 2019, it got hard to find the check Saz.
It's almost a sign of the end times where Saz is hard to find. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's so just prevalent wherever, but again, I don't work in the bulk side of things, so
everything
I don't know.
From our water profile to the hops to the grain bill, we use BSG, so I can get malts from German maltsters, English maltsters, Scottish maltsters, even South American maltsters.
Wow.
But we stay true to tradition on the malt, the hops, the yeast, and the water. So we use White Labs Kolsch yeast for our Kolsch and our Edinburgh Ale yeast for our Scotch Ale. And we pay the extra money for those White Lab pure pitches.
And how's the market for these beers that based on this, I imagine they're closer to style than some of the other beers that I get to try. Do you find a lot of people in your area are style focused? Do they understand the styles, or do they not care, or do they care and that's why they seek you out?
The big difference I see with our tap room people, when John and I, we were alcohol tourists, Steven, we go to a brewery and they'd have their lineup, 3-5 beers.
Yeah.
We go to another brewery, they'd have their lineup 3-5 beers. We can go back in a couple of days and that lineup would be completely different. When our Scotch Ale went off tap, we lost customers.
Wow.
So I don't know what it is about our little world, but people aren't always looking for something different. They want what they had last time that they liked.
See, I agree with you. There's definitely a section of the population, but I think the problem is, at least out here, that section of the population that wants that doesn't have as much money as the other people do, who want constant change, who go, oh, you don't have anything recent on tap, I got to leave. And then now the people go, oh, well, now we have to just keep rotating. We have to have 100 IPAs that are different every day.
Right.
No, for us, it's the other way. For us, if the brown goes off tap, I can tell you, 100 regulars that aren't going to be coming in until it's back.
I think I love that.
That's
I think
so
I
crazy.
really do like that
a brown ale.
Yeah, brown ale.
I can't sell a brown ale to save my life.
Teresa, when was the last time you heard of someone brewing a Scotch ale out here?
We've never done a Scotch ale. There is a brewery locally. They do a wee heavy. That's about the closest. And then another guy does it around St. Patrick's Day. He'll do a Scotch ale. But
I love a Scotch ale,
but
so nobody
cool.
makes it.
I love it.
Yeah, what's funny is we when we first started, we didn't even brew an IPA. I mean, it was I think maybe a year before we actually put our first IPA on, and it was sort of strategic for us because IPAs were super big. Right? I mean, they still are, but right then, I mean, everybody was wanting something different. Like, not even the next time they came into a place, like they wanted a different IP the next beer that they had.
Right.
And so we didn't want to be that one where we were on and then we were off because the newest one came out. So because we did that, it opened us up to be that brewery that had something different. And so we never expected it, but our Hefeweizen ended up being our flagship beer. We were the only ones in the Southeast brewing a Hefe at the time.
I could see that,
people
though, I guess.
loved it, and that pretty much guaranteed us a tap anywhere that we sold it because nobody else had a Hefe, and everybody else had IPAs. So for us, after about like 6 months to a year, we finally decided to put an IPA on, and of course, people loved it.
Well, and unfortunately,
something else new came out.
Yeah, well, right, and you do need to have those beers because those pay the bills,
right?
And that's where we're at. But for us purists out there, you can't beat a good Scotch ale.
Well, and I think there's so much room for breweries that do things a little bit differently. Like there's so many breweries that do stouts and sours and IPAs, and here we're pretty well known in our area for doing German styles and lagers and ales, and I mean there's plenty of room for that because not everybody's doing it, and I imagine you guys kind of find the same thing.
We do.
And those, I mean, your beers are so drinkable too. I mean, these low ABV and like classic styles, nice dry finish.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm actually really mad at JP again because he didn't get me any beer.
Well, hey man, come on down. People in the chat are commenting they like your IPA. So
what's good is starting this next year, you'll start seeing our beers. Well, the Mura line to start off with. In California, so
really?
You'll be able to have access to some.
Whoa,
nice, man. That's good. That's big. Congrats.
Very cool.
If you're from Alabama, there's not a lot of breweries sending beer west.
No,
there's mostly coming east.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love it, man. Anytime we can get out of region beers, I'm on board. All right, let's take a quick break, everybody. We'll be right back with the fellas from Red Clay, all the way from Alabama via the internet. Who would have thought, right? It's The Session. We'll be right back.
Segmented, demented, fermented. It's The Session.
All right, everybody, thanks for hanging out. It's The Session. We're back with the fellas from Red Clay Brewing, and I just cracked open another one of the Mura beers, the West Indies. And Emmanuel, I keep asking you how to say that, and hopefully I did it right. But
yes,
you don't have to
Mura.
worry about it if you know what the Mura.
So you see that image of a bull on the can.
I do, yeah.
The name is derived from Don Eduardo Mura, the breeder of the most famous fighting bulls in Spain.
Oh,
I grew up in Spain of a Spanish mother, and hence. My grandfather was a huge aficionado. For the Spanish, it's a legendary name.
Okay.
And early on, I came to terms with the fact that my last name, Kemijii, which is Greek Cypriot, was a lousy name for a winery or a brewery. So drank a lot, got over it, and came up with this name, Mura.
Okay. Well, I love it. So your last name is Greek. Me too, man. Cheers. Yasu to you, my friend.
Yasu.
Yeah. I love it. Sorry, I'm having a moment.
Okay.
I'm having a moment. All right. So tell me about the West Indies beer.
West Indies. So this was my version of an IPA. So India Pale Ale, but Red Clay already made a very good one. And the world, honestly speaking, does not need another IPA.
See? Now that I know that you're part Greek, everything you say is 100% correct.
So I thought, okay, well, how are we going to do this so that it's different? So I thought, well, I'm gonna take for example when Mr. Columbus thought India was the other way, and so this. But one of my issues with a lot of IPAs, too hoppy, too bitter. So really here, the bittering component comes not so much from the hops, but also from cocoa, dark chocolate from the Dominican Republic. And then we age it in tequila barrels to give it a little bit more spice because Mexico at one time was part of the West Indies, and hence the name. This is our West Indies Pale Ale. So that's how we put this together. And those guys found the barrels and found dark chocolate.
We just brewed it today, actually, another batch.
Oh, nice. Nice. Teresa, this is another beer that I think you would absolutely eat up. It's so complex.
I've seen some coffee IPAs lately, and I'm really intrigued. I've had a barrel-aged IPA in tequila barrels, and I've had a coffee IPA. So I'm trying to put those two ideas together.
Yeah.
It sounds awesome.
We did the Alabama Snakes, the coffee IPA, 5 years ago. And now, all of a sudden,
oh, really?
I see coffee IPAs everywhere.
Oh,
That's
my God.
what happens, man.
Yeah, you guys were trendsetters. You were so far on this side, like I didn't get the message.
Right.
Like Emmanuel said, this beer's West Indies Pale Ale, regional story goes along with it. Chocolate from the DR, cocoa nibs added directly to the boil, unsweetened, just raw chocolate.
Okay.
Tequila barrels were actually more difficult to find than I thought, and even the big barrel houses only get them in intermittently because I guess they just use them over and over. It's not like bourbon where they can only use them once.
Yeah.
English Pale Ale, Maris Otter base malt with crystal and pearl hops.
Okay, interesting, because it is definitely maltier. Like drinking it almost takes me back to like late 90s West Coast IPA. Not as bitter, very smooth, but it's that mouthfeel, it's that thing, and which makes sense. You're talking English, like an English Pale Ale, a lot more malt, some crystal in there. That definitely makes sense, but it's also with the way that you're handling the bittering and with the chocolate and the tequila barrels, it doesn't. I mean, maybe if you search for it, you can sort of get like, yeah, there's like a cocoa thing, like a darker, whatever, but it tastes like a lower hopped, higher ABV pale ale from the 90s. It's great.
Well, thank you.
I think you did it. I think that you did exactly what you were going for. I don't know. I mean, you tell me. I'm not putting words in your mouth. How do you think?
I get the chocolate mostly on the nose, sort of as you're pulling the beer away.
Yeah.
And then the tequila, I don't so much taste tequila as I do the barrel, but I kind of expect that with beer, right? All spirits are almost the same. What you taste in spirits is mostly the barrel. Almost all spirits are like whiskey's moonshine before the barrel.
Yeah.
Silver rum just almost tastes like vodka. It's not a big difference.
Right.
But here I get the barrel from the tequila, and then first I get the chocolate, and then the barrel from the tequila. But on top of a traditional English pale ale, this is a 3-week ale, and most ales can be out of the fermenter in 2 weeks. Day 15, it's in the can. This one takes about 3.5 weeks, and that's because we use the traditional malts, traditional yeast here. We're using the English ale yeast from White Labs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is interesting, man. Unless you're going like a rum agricole where you're doing like the sugar, like the fresh pressed juice, that you can get a differentiation on, but those don't really see the barrel, so it's just sort of like it doesn't really fit the format or whatever. But yes, you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right. Sticking with the distillate format, it's all just more or less flavor less. But the barrel is definitely the key there. That's well, I guess like with tequila, right? You got the agave, so it's a different thing, but you're still distilling it down. That's good.
Yeah, this is the one beer that
I like
when
it.
we did it was, pretty much the second try, the second batch, we, it was pretty much signed off saying this is what we want. The Forbidden Blade, the first one you tried, it's it's taken a while. There's a lot of little nuances in there that a little slight change can make a huge difference. This one, we with the university being right next to us, we have a brewing science program, and so we, like, our head brewer, our assistant brewer, and all graduated from there. And so this was actually sort of a recipe that I believe our assistant brewer had come up with, because we've had we've got a bunch of different types of pale ale and IPA recipes that we've had, and we've sort of just took one that he had recently done that we thought would, because it wasn't this overwhelming IPA, we felt like it could hold up to the cocoa nibs and the tequila barrels, where any of the other ones that we've had, just the hop profile was way too strong, and the malt profile would have covered some of it up. And so we're like, let's start here. And that was pretty much the starting spot for us, was taking this recipe that our assistant brewer came up with and sort of tweaking it a little bit and making it, this recipe now. So
yeah, it's great. Emmanuel, how do you, going back to your somm roots, how does a master sommelier approach beer? I know that we sort of have similar vocabulary when it comes to tasting the two products, but beer and wine are so vastly different. How do you apply your knowledge to the beer world and not, and still make it, I don't want to say relevant, but, how to make it give a different meaning?
Well, I mean, for me, and the beers that when I talked to Kerry and John about the beers, I wanted them to be balanced and bright beers that you could really also have with foods. In fact, we've done a couple of really fun events where I have dinners with different courses, and at each course we have one of the beers and one of the Mura wines that I make in California. And so gives people a chance to try two completely different things with the same food and see how much change there is in the taste of that food and that beer or that wine with each. So for me, above all, it had to be something not overpowering, something that was bright and lively. Mm-hmm. I did not want to go over the top into the extreme high ABVs, and you'll see that now even more with the stout that you're going to taste, that we really try to be very careful about reining that in.
All right. I look forward to it. Let's go. So Mura is your winery.
Yes.
Okay. So and you said in California, whereabouts?
So this is Mura.
Wow. Nice bottle, man.
Mostly, I have two projects.
Okay.
So that I don't get bored.
Right.
I also have this project in Spain.
Okay. What's it called? I can't see it.
No, the project in Spain is Clos Pizarra.
Okay.
We're in a small region called Priorat, about 80 miles southwest of Barcelona. Priorat has become kind of Spain's Napa Valley. The most expensive and sought after wines in Spain come from this tiny region now.
Wow.
And there, myself and some buddies have about 60 acres of vineyards in our own facility that I oversee. In California, very different. What do is buy grapes from some of the best known vineyards, Pinot. More than anything, we do Pinot Noir. So we do a Pinot from the Anderson Valley. We do one from the Russian River Valley, and then one from the Santa Lucia Highlands. Actually, two from the Santa Lucia Highlands in Monterey.
Okay. Wow.
So
I love a good Pinot too, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to check it out for sure. I get focused with with wine. It's hard for me to branch out from I have like two standards that I go to, but I definitely want to look at that because check your winery out, man, because these beers are doing great, and from the regions you're naming, and then you're hitting my style. The Pinot I really like, so I'm looking forward to that. What should I drink next, boys? I probably have time for two. Well, I don't know. We have 3 beers here, so why not? But let's. If we can't get to one, which one should we leave behind?
Definitely want to get to the last Mira beer, but if we were to pick, I think maybe the Trace Barbas.
Let's do that.
Or the Red Clay.
Okay.
I think that's a good one.
Let's do that.
All 3 of us are donning our beards, so
I appreciate that. Steven's is epic as usual. I don't know. I'm not picking on you, Steven. I'm just trying to say your name every once in a while. That's all.
I appreciate it.
It's funny, at the break we were just chatting about ciders. You guys do a cider in the tap room.
We do an English, few English style ciders, and
all right, let's
really good dry cider. Are probably our most popular. We've had our standard original cider for years, and we decided to branch out a little bit. Utilize our wine license that we had, and Carrie and I had gone up to Michigan a few times and realized how much we like the cherries and things like that up there, and so we decided to do a cherry cider, and that one became one of the cider competitions, national cider competitions. I think out of New York, we got.
We took it to the Alabama Commercial Wine Competition, where it won best in the cider category, but it also won best overall.
Oh wow! Congrats!
Which made me happy. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
So we sent it up to a national cider competition in New York, where it took 3rd place overall. So on the national stage, I'll take 3rd place all day, every day. I was very happy about that.
Yeah, maybe you're regional. You're like, we could have done better. But national, you're like, yeah, fuck it. I love it. Let's go.
When you're up against 6,000 ciders, it's all right. I'll take 3. So.
I'll take a bronze any day of the week for that.
Especially when it's cider at
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's only 2 entries, then it's fine.
And there's sort of a little of a push and shove there with I love local. I'm local anytime we can be, as much as possible. Peaches come from Georgia. Avocados come from California. I'm sorry to the rest of the country, but cherries come from Michigan.
Is that a thing? Are there regional food gangs?
Yeah, they do really.
They might come looking for me, but
apples and cherries is what's big for out there.
Okay, because
cherries from Michigan are there's nothing like them anywhere.
See, the beauty of California is we do a lot of stuff, but it's with a small window of it. We're avocados for sure, but for an hour. And then cherries, we do cherries, especially out here where I live, but for 4 hours. And then we do almonds and cows, and that's about it.
Yeah, almonds.
Yeah.
Pistachios.
That's true.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff, man.
So Sacramento's claim to fame is they have all the almond processing, and it's literally in Sacramento. It's you wouldn't believe how urban this place is. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is wild, man. California's so spread out and then focused at the same time, where it's you drive for hours, and then here's this big sprawling metropolis that takes you an hour to get across, and then you're just anyway. Okay, Tres Barbas.
Tres Barbas.
Mexican style lager. Tell me about this beer, Kelly.
This was our first beer, so I always try to retain the title at least the position of head brewer. But that basically just gives me like the veto power, right? If I say it goes down the drain, I maintain the right to dump something down the drain.
Right.
Everything else now, the bigger we get, the more time I spend behind the desk. All three of us, we spend in a freaking chair at a computer all day, every day as we get bigger.
Yep.
But this was the first Craig only, who's our brewer now. Craig only beer. He came up with the recipe. He picked the hops. He picked the process. And we made this beer for our Cinco de Mayo party. And it became a big hit. And people started wanting more of it. So we made a second batch. And then it took over in our tap room as the #1 selling beer. It surpassed the Kolsch and the Halftime combined.
Wow.
I am personally under the train of thought, the school of thought, like the best Mexican lager in the world. And Tres Barbas is awesome. It's amazing. I drink it a lot. But the absolute #1 best Mexican lager in the world is okay. Right? Like no matter how great it is, it's just okay.
Okay, I feel like your people are putting you on a list. Because I mean, I don't know. I want to disagree with you, but then that would be too on brand for me. So I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
So I'm actually not a fan of Mexican lagers, but when Craig came out with this, and there's no denying math that this beer started bringing in more revenue than anything else we have, even our 2 top beers combined. So we started making it more. The poster we made for the Cinco de Mayo party, the girl who does our artwork, Miranda, she wrapped that around the can for us. I drink this beer a lot because sometimes I just like something lighter.
It's cool artwork. I love it.
It stands out on a shelf like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah. They're very bright colors.
I think that's one reason people like it so much.
Yeah.
This is the first beer we've had where I can't make enough of it. I'm literally out of it all the time.
Wow.
Like when I plan a batch, I already know who's got all of it and where it's going. And
that's a good problem, dude.
I mean, it's still a problem.
It's still a problem,
so,
yeah. Look,
anybody
man,
out there
you take the win.
15 barrel fermenters sitting around that you need to get rid of, just email me. I'm looking right now.
Okay, all right, there you go.
So,
I love it.
So as a brewer who makes, I put half my production into hazy IPA. I would kill to have that be a Mexican lager, just for the record.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt that. Ours is way better.
I was saying about our halftime, it became our flagship. And I mean, who wants a Hefeweizen to be their flagship? Right? You got your brewery, you're cool, you want to be well known, and that became our flagship. That was the one that made the money. And
that is super.
You want to, but at the end of the day, math is what matters.
That is super interesting point, man. It's like, you guys get into the industry because you're homebrewers, and as a former, almost current homebrewer myself, it's hard. Like when I would go into the homebrew shop, I have my recipe, and then I see all this grain, and I go, "Oh shit! Well, I could do this. I'm going to change this." It happens every time. So you're by nature, I think. We want to do this. We want to see what we can do and how to work with different ingredients and stuff. And then to have your hef be the most popular, like really, I might as well just give you water. Like it's there's not that there's not skill in making a good hef, because clearly your hef is good because people are buying it, but it's not as sexy.
Yeah, and here's the thing: we do make a good Hefe. I mean, just down the road, we've got a German company, and they bring in about 300 Germans like once a year, and they come to our brewery. They love our Hefe. They love our Kolsch.
Really?
I think it reminds them of. Oh yeah,
Damn.
They love it. And
right.
It's just sort of funny because I mean we pride ourselves, but on the other hand, like the beers that Carrie and I thought when we first we're like, okay, what beers are we going to open up with? We were like, okay, our Saison, we want to be our flagship beer. Well, it didn't matter what we wanted. It didn't matter what we wanted.
I'm sorry to laugh at you, but yeah, that's a home brewer, man.
Yeah, I don't mean to laugh either.
And no, I mean, we laugh at ourselves about it because we're like, what were we thinking? But, you know, I mean, like even right now, I mean, we have a really good lambic called Fortuity, and it's sort of a marriage of our winery, our cidery, and our brewery, because we have our Merlot that we put in there, we have our cider, and we have a really good lambic. And, you know, it's one of our favorite beers, and, you know, when people try it, oh man, they love it. They can't get enough of it. But just to try to get people to drink a lambic, the second we labeled as sour, you know, as soon as people just started going nuts over sours, okay, this is going to be a sour from now on. All of a sudden it started selling, you know, and it's just like from just naming it what we actually know the name of it is to just saying, okay, we're going to go with society and say this is just a sour. Let's scratch out lambic, and it became like one of our bigger selling beers.
Yeah, it's funny what's in a name, man. Like there was a time, and I think it still holds true, and maybe it's regional, I don't know, but people don't buy beers based on if the color is in the name, like a brown ale or a red ale, those wouldn't sell. Teresa, I think we've talked about this on the show a few times. Like it's harder to sell people on a brown ale. You're like, really? Brown? I don't want that. I want a sexy name. Yeah,
well,
but
yeah,
for you guys, it's different,
I feel like the
right?
brown ales are really tough. And then also, like weird names like lambic, like, or bitter. I bitter.
Bitter. Yeah.
It's probably the worst name of any possible name because people, I hate bitter.
Yeah, I don't want anything bitter.
It's not really that bitter.
Yeah. Well, and
we had an ESB.
Mm-hmm. ESB, as long as it's just initials and, you know, or an acronym, they don't know.
We called it Bitter Southern. We're like, yeah, we can't do that.
No, I want to try.
Well, we can't sell English beers. We had some great English beers. One was really more of a bitter. I named it a bitter for a little while, and then I totally renamed it a really fun name and called it a pub ale. But still, that beer took forever to sell. We've just never done well with English beers, except with that like one guy who comes in and is like, why don't you ever do this beer again? Like, this is my favorite beer.
Yeah.
I think the death of the ESB came around same time as those bitter beer face commercials.
Yeah. They showed everybody how much they should hate them.
It's one of the best styles of beer out there. Is the ESB.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. And every time these things come up, I'm always reminded of Dave, bless his soul, at Flat Tail, who had his dry hop Saison Little Green, and it wouldn't sell. It's to this day probably the best Saison I've had. It's amazing beer, and it's lower ABV, and it's in a can, and it's great. And then one of his draft clients renamed it to a Session IPA, and it flew off the shelf. So then he was like, "Oh well, this is what it's called now. This is a Session dry hopped IPA, and it's whatever."
Well, when we first opened, we had our 4 main beers that we were going to make and sell.
Yeah,
and our Saison was one of them. But it just so happened that in the craft beer world, right around early 2015, every brewery on the planet made a Saison, and some of them went too far on the farmhouse part, right?
Yeah.
They went into like the funky cheese, the wet feet, where most Saisons were more pleasant. You know, we're talking about stale cardboard, paddock, crawl space.
Yeah.
But
I love the way he describes things.
Crawl space is a good word. I'm try to remember that one. Crawl space is good. I like it.
That's a great descriptor. Crawl space.
Yeah.
Right? If you've ever had some like super French ciders, you know what I'm talking about. That same smells you get with cheese started coming out in Saisons, and then people see the word Saison and they just keep walking.
They keep walking, man.
So, one of our flagships, our first main lineup beers was the Saison, and I think that period just kind of ran it into the ground. So we just started calling it Hay Shed, and sales went back up. We just took Saison out of the name.
Yeah.
And, it's weird. It's weird world, right? So
it's It's super funny. I mean, it goes to show like people need education. Like there is a gap. You know, when your customer comes in off the street, they're just starting to understand craft beer. Like they have a limited vocabulary, and it's up to us to kind of help them, you know. But you have to sometimes like I mean, it's a gentle introduction. Like you can't just beat somebody over the head with it, or they won't enjoy it.
Well, I think there's a larger portion of the population than we think in craft beer that don't want the education. They just want to either get a quick dose of hops or a quick dose of ABV. I have a friend, Russ, who thinks he likes IPAs. He thinks he loves them, but he just likes getting drunk real fast. And I keep trying to tell him that. I'm like, you don't really like this beer because you're drinking Trulies now. And it's like, you're not really an IPA guy. You just want to slam a 6.5 beer. And it's like, I don't know. It's sort of like for me in wine, like I don't know anything about wine, but I'm sort of trying, but not really. And I think a lot of people in craft beer are sort of like me when in the wine biz, where it's like, okay, I know a couple wineries, I know a couple terms, but they don't mean anything to me. I'm not actually looking up in a book going, oh, okay, well, I'm not trying to like identify corked wine, right? Or has this is this over oaked or whatever, right? It's just the same. I don't know. I think there's a larger portion than we think of people who are just ignorant on purpose because they don't really care. They just enjoy drinking a beer. I don't know why I decided to make that point. Let me take a quick break. And we're going to come back. We're going to wrap up. I'm going to drink this last Miura, the Dark Cape, which sounds amazing, and chat a little bit more with the fellows from Red Clay Brewing. It's The Session. Hang on. We'll be right back.
You're tuned into The Session.
Because life's too short to listen to crappy radio.
Thanks for sticking with us, everybody. We're wrapping up here with the Red Clay Boys out in Alabama, and I'm opening the last Miura beer. Emmanuel, tell me about the Dark Cape, please.
So I live in Puerto Rico, and when I think of the Caribbean, I think of two things above all. I think of coffee and I think of rum.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So this is a stout made with coffee from one of the top estates in Puerto Rico in the central part of the island from a gentleman called Don Dionisio who owns it, and then aged in rum barrels. And it's an English style stout because it was the English that really propagated the beer trade in the Caribbean. So the idea is to try to make a stout that had coffee, but not coffee that is a beer, if that makes any sense.
Beer first, always.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also a stout for all those people who think they don't like stouts, or they've tried stouts and it's too much of everything. Well, here we wanted to do something that, again, was more balanced, was more approachable, and something that somebody say, well, I can drink that. And too often I come with too many stouts that interesting smell, interesting taste, and after about a few sips, I say, okay, now give me something I can drink.
It's too much. It's too cloying, or it's too sticky, or it's the mouth feels weird, or I know what you're talking about. This is there's a few different ways I can attack this because it's such a complex beer. I sort of just want to sit with it for a little bit longer, honestly. So
See, that's what I tell myself when I'm getting.
This is your program. Enjoy it.
5 minutes of dead air. I haven't enjoyed this program since 2005. What are you talking
Silence.
about? Yeah.
Should we put on some stout music while we're waiting?
That's right. Yeah.
When I'm sitting there drinking a little too much, I just tell myself, I just want to marinate with this. I just want to evaluate it.
I'm just marinating, like E40 said, marinating on the corner with the chip in my phone. So Kelly, okay, so how do you take Emmanuel's idea and turn it into this beer?
With a lot of practice.
Nice. Okay.
Getting the rum into it was actually the hard part. Coffee's strong. Coffee's a dominant flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the rum into it. So what I started looking at was, once again, when it comes to rum, what do you taste? And, moonshine, if you were to proof it down, vodka with the same proof, rum with the same proof, it can be a little difficult to tell the difference pre-barrel.
I agree.
Barrels makes the world of difference with all these liquors. So it was actually the rum barrel that started to come to mind. So we took these beans, these green coffee beans, we threw them into a rum barrel and let them just soak up the flavor.
You took green coffee beans, unroasted green coffee beans, put them in a rum barrel, with a full rum barrel?
No, with no rum, a used rum barrel.
Okay. So you a barrel's worth of green coffee beans.
Right.
Okay. Sorry if I'm slow, but I just need to, it's so bizarre. I've never heard of this, so I need to make sure that I'm not, having a fever dream.
Right. Well, so we barrel aged those coffee beans, and then they came over here. They went to Mama Mocha, which is one of our local roasters. And it's a long story there, but basically I never liked beer till I tried hers, because her coffee is just amazing. Never liked coffee till I tried hers.
Nice.
So we bring them over here. She's the one that roasts them, and then we put that coffee into the beer. And once again, I taste the barrel and I taste the coffee in this stout. Traditional English stout, Burton-on-Trent water profile, maybe a touch more calcium, and then the coffee, being a Caribbean stout, what we were going for, I threw some cashmere hops in there because there's a bit of coconut. And for the first time, I actually had someone at the bar say, "Man, I taste coconut."
Nice.
But yeah, very tropical hops on that. We've got the cashmere, EKG, and a touch of Magnum for the bitter. But it's that cashmere that sort of throws the tropical properties into that beer.
What do they call it? Is foreign export, I think, is now. They've changed the categories recently, and I can't remember what it is. But there is that, or maybe it is. You said Caribbean stout. Isn't that what the new category is? Yeah, where it's like a little beefier in alcohol.
Is there a Caribbean stout?
I thought there was, or it's
not in the category. I think it's like you were saying, import export stout.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
our goal
it's hard for us when we send it to BJCP to figure out what it actually is.
Yeah.
We want to create the category.
I'll put it this way.
The category.
I'll put it this way: when we were trying to get this thing approved with a TTB, it was a nightmare. I mean, it took us probably 3 months to go through the process, because we wanted the can to specify on the front or to specify Caribbean stout. That was just, we wanted people to know, but we didn't brew it in the Caribbean. So they said, obviously it was, oh, you're misleading. I'm like, no, it's just the style we're going for. So they let us put in the nice fine print, handcrafted in the U.S., and that cleared everything up. Had they told me that 3 months prior, we would have probably came out with a lot faster. But
we didn't have formula approval.
Tomato potato is what it is. But the cool thing with this project for this particular beer is, Emmanuel, he's got the contacts in Puerto Rico to get us the green coffee beans, rum barrels, and everything. Our roaster for coffee is 2 doors down from us. When we get it, we were able to have total control of how every aspect of this beer sort of attributed to the finished product.
Yeah.
It wasn't, oh, we just got some roasted beans. Hopefully they're all Puerto Rican and not mixed with some Guatemalan and things like that. These are actually all Puerto Rican coffee beans. The rum barrels came from, a rum distillery in Puerto Rico. It was roasted right next to us. We were able to speak to her and figure out exactly at what point we need to put this into the beer and how long and all this kind of stuff, what it's going to do, the longer we boil it and things like that, all the way to, just our, aspect of, what hops to use and things like that. And I think it came out in the end to be a really good sort of well-rounded beer where you're not just having a coffee stout, you're not having a rum barrel stout, you're not having a stout, you're having a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Yes, that's absolutely correct. And I'll be honest, I don't really know what to say about it. It's good, but that's underwhelming of a word to use. It is. I think you've achieved your goal, because you can't sit here and go, well, like you said, this is a coffee stout, because you sort of taste the coffee, but you can also go, well, look, I've had higher roasted stouts before as well, so it could just be that. And then you go, oh, I can taste the rum. I go, well, I've had caramel malts in stouts before too. Rum can have that sort of effect on it. That's fine too. Oh, I can taste the barrel. Yeah, but it could also be, what I mean? You can sort of excuse away a lot of these flavors. And it sounds like maybe that's what you're going for, but that's sort of what I appreciate about it, because it's a beer first. And I've said this fucking from day one. It's a beer first. If you make a barrel-aged beer, don't get confused that barrel is first. It should be a beer aged in a barrel. It tastes like a beer first. This tastes like a beer first. It has a creamy mouthfeel, so it's almost like the sort of pastry stout flavor profile, but not as like sickly sweet or whatever. There's a nice amount of body to it. There's a good sweetness, and then the tannin from the barrel comes through. The dryness comes through, and it leaves you with this like, I can't tell if it's roasted malt or if it's coffee, and I like that.
No, I like that. As a brewer, one of the best compliments is just when someone's kind of like, "That's good."
Yeah, and it's
I love that.
The nose is kind of spicy, because I have a small terrible roaster at home where I roast green coffee beans, where you literally push the medium setting because I don't want to invest $400 in a B more coffee roaster, right? But to me, green coffee beans, when you open the bag, there is a spiciness in the aroma, and that's I can get that out of here. And I know that there's no green coffee beans in here, but it's that this is what I mean. There's so much going on with these ingredients that Emmanuel's given you that it's like it's a beer that you are. Sometimes we get beers, and I'm going way too long on this subject, but sometimes we get beers and we sit down and we go, fuck, I have to really slog through all this shit. Like, what is this? What am I tasting here? But everything is so lightly done. It's like a meal. It's like a dish where you're just enjoying everything together, and then you can pick it apart if you want to identify flavors, but you don't have to, because it's all just sort of works really, really well together. That's all I'm going to say on it.
After you say that, the next beer dinner I do is just going to have 5 beers and no food.
It's just this. Yeah. Here you go. Here's a boot, a stiefel of this, Germans. See if you come back.
I would go to that dinner. That would be fine for me. No, I mean, honestly, sometimes people, when they barrel age beers, there are these like super crazy beers that you can only drink just a 4-ounce pour, and then you're overwhelmed. And like, I love barrel aging a beer that's like, a beer that you could actually drink, you could really enjoy, and you can taste that barrel instead of tasting all the crazy stuff and the sweetness that they put into the barrel. It's just trying to make it so over the top.
Emmanuel, can you tell us the distillery that this came from?
It's San Juan Artisan Distillers. It's a new project.
Okay.
It's actually a really exciting new project on the island, because they're one of the few people that grow their own sugarcane and then distill it in alembic pot stills.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, everybody buys sugar from the outside. Everybody dumps it into huge column still distillers. Here, they're really trying to do the right thing. And the products that they're coming out with are really interesting and really well done. So
excellent.
It was definitely after going around and visiting a number of the rum producers, that was the one that I felt like okay, these guys are really trying to do the right thing and kind of would understand where we're coming from and what we want to achieve. So
that sounds great. Yeah, it seems like there is sort of that move back to, growing your own sugarcane. It is a lot, and I think a lot of it follows in the wine footsteps, where we're getting breweries growing their own hops and their own barley, and some breweries malting their own barley, and having full control over that. But I was reading a couple of years ago, I think Hawaii they just had their first distillery to grow their own sugarcane and produce it and distill it on the island in years. So it's this sort of like resurgence of these small communities handling their own sugar.
Well, and in the wine business, that's a common theme with high-end wineries, right? Single vineyard. It's the idea of encapsulating a special place.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do. We actually have a beer that we're doing now in barrel, a lambic that we're doing, where the barrels came from Mura, from the winery, from a very famous vineyard called Pisoni in Santa Lucia, that we had used those barrels to age Pinot Noir. And then we got Pinot Noir grapes shipped overnight to start the fermentation for the lambic, while spontaneous fermentation. So eventually that will come out next, I think, about
on Christmas,
November, December.
It'll be for Christmas release, basically. It'll be before Christmas, but get those little holiday packages together,
Next year, not this year, not next month.
Yeah, when we said, when we were coming up with a concept for this one, we were like, we really want to sort of, encapsulate the full Mura project that we've got going on. And, we wanted to do a wild, this is about as crazy as we're going to get, So we decided, I want you to take a bag and hold it under the grapes and let them just sort of clip them off and drop them in there. I don't want them washed. I don't want anything like that.
Yeah.
We're going to do it just like you do the wine,
Yeah.
That's how he does his wine, and that's how we're going to put it in the beer.
Oh yeah, at Mura you don't hit it with sulfite and pitchy yeast. You do sort of the natural fermentation.
At Mura, all the wines, whether Mura or Clos Pisano in Spain, all are native fermentations to start, because that's part of the signature of that place is the yeast that grows on those grapes. Because every place has a unique set of yeast that grows in that place. Yeah. And if you wipe that out and, lab or cultured yeast basically kill the native yeast and take over fermentations. And so I think it's also a very important part of winemaking is to have native yeast because that's part of the signature of the place.
It's funny you mentioned that because my two favorite wineries are they're both natural fermentation. One's Ridge and the other is Bedrock, and they're both known for like their zins, but they do they sort of like branch out a little bit more. But they're the natural fermentation, and you do get those different flavors that you don't find in some other wineries who just nuke everything, and then here's a dry yeast, dump it in, punch the cap, do whatever, and then it's gone, right?
Right.
So that's cool, man. I'm looking forward to trying your wine. That's that sounds great.
We'll get some to you.
I would love that. Are you kidding me? I'd freak out. Yeah, this is good, man. It sounds like a really good partnership you guys have going on because you both understand each other, and I think Kelly, you can work with these weird ass ideas that Emmanuel gives you. Because they're beautifully executed. They're well thought out. I can definitely see the how these things have progressed in talking to you guys. So thank you for sending them. They're great. Teresa, I'm sorry. Cheers, brother. Sorry, man. I don't know.
That's right. I was working with Monica on a beer trade in the chat while we're all talking. So I won't have your beer like on the podcast, but I'll have it.
You got to do it.
I know how to work this stuff out.
We'll get it to you.
If we have to send you some, just let us know. I mean, Steven's going to be pissed off, but let us know.
Well, and I'm going to send some back, so don't even.
There you go.
Okay. It's going to be even Steven.
Oh,
there you go, Steven. All right,
even Steven. He's like, man, I'm tired of that shit. You got to do it,
I've
Teresa.
heard that a million times.
Yeah.
Sending 2 6-packs of beer to California, we found out that's not very cheap.
No.
Because I got a call from
Yeah,
Steve.
well,
it's just been outrageous.
Well,
you have to make sure it's. Oh yeah, Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Importing those barrels from Puerto Rico wasn't cheap.
No.
Right.
Barrels from Napa Valley weren't cheap either.
No.
That was a call from Steven.
Yeah, I mean, if you got to find a winery that you can work with, and it sounds like you have, because otherwise you're like, well, I paid $400 or $500 for this barrel. What am I going to sell it to you for?
Right.
Barrels are very expensive. Well, guys, I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate you staying on. I know it's it's getting late out there. But where can we learn more about Red Clay? Please.
Well, we're on redclaybrewingcompany.com, Facebook, Instagram, Untapped. Like we mentioned, right now we are distributed in Alabama, but we are branching out to California about the first of the year, and also Puerto Rico the first of the year.
Nice.
So, the goal is to get this project out. Luckily, with Emmanuel already having his wine projects, in these areas, right now, I mean, I'm sure you guys know nobody's taking on new things, and it's really amazing to have these people, give us this shot and be able to take us on and try our beers out in California and
nice.
In Puerto Rico. So definitely looking forward to that, and we've actually got a new coffee project we're gonna be coming out on as well before too long. So
a coffee project,
yeah. So it's going to be sort of Islero is the name of it, and it's sort of the same concept. You'll see some of the similar labeling as Mura, and sort of the same concept with the coffee. Will be single origin coffee, cold brew that'll be canned. So.
Oh man, I love a good canned cold
Very
brew.
Cool.
Honestly,
right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Then, Emmanuel, what about you and your wineries? You want to plug anything there?
Well, apart from what we do, we just launched a new project. This is what happens when there's a pandemic and you have a master sommelier that sits around with too much time. He starts thinking of things, too many things.
Yeah.
And we just launched our first wine in a can.
Wine in a can. Oh, yes. My wife will be very happy.
Very good.
Is that a rosé?
We have four actually. We do a Pinot Grigio, a barrel fermented Chardonnay, a rosé of Pinot Noir, and then a red blend.
I love a good rosé, and I will never be afraid to admit that.
I love it.
They're amazing. And there was a time when it was like rosé was like, oh, it's not really a man's wine. I don't know why that started. I mean, I guess I do know why, but it's amazing. The most wine I've ever drank in a sitting has been a rosé in Florida on my honeymoon. Just by the pool. It's like 1 a.m. Big glass full of rosé. Let's go. Why not? What are you going to do?
If you need something to pair with a rosé, chocolate chip cookies.
Really?
Okay. Really?
Emmanuel, what do you think?
I was out at the vineyard in Monterey.
Yeah.
I had some of their rosé, and the guy's mother was cooking Italian sausage and had some homemade cookies. And I was drinking rosé with Italian sausage and homemade cookies, and it was the best. But I don't know if I just had too much or...
Yeah.
It was delicious.
I don't know. Maybe that's the next Mira beer. I don't know. What do you think?
It was delicious.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man.
So how do we get rosé sausage and chocolate chip cookies into a beer?
I don't know, but Steven's eyes are rolling back in his head right now. It's like, yeah, I don't know.
Sounds too expensive, Carrie.
Yeah, we're just not going to do it. Just going to kill that project right now. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. This has been The Session, and we'll see you later.
Justin's a nice guy and winning the race. JP does great